Hey, good morning. It's Tamara. And I just wanted to reach out to you because in the group, the question about how do I stop self-sabotaging and what is a trigger really and how is that connected to trauma, it really requires more of an explanation than I could give in the group. So I've diagrammed it out behind me, and I just want to quickly go through an explanation so that you can understand what's going on when there's a habit that you want to change and how that's really connected to the whole trauma self-healing process. So what I've written here is it is a sum of what's already known in the field. It looks like it's backwards, so I might have to flip it. But it's what's already known as cognitive behavioral therapy, but I've adjusted it to help you understand. It's the way I've healed my own trauma. And it's how I've seen lots of people heal based on this as a foundation, but adjusted slightly to really take into consideration what trauma does to our brain and to our body. So when we have a reminder come up in our body from the past and something externally in our external environment asks that thing to wake up, we call that a trigger. And the trigger actually takes from that part of our brain that was traumatized in the messages and all of the emotional energy that was collected around the traumatic event or events in childhood or later, whenever this traumatic event happened or events happen. And at the time that it happened, we said certain things to ourselves. And so anytime there is a reminder, the trigger of that thing from the past, we say the same things to ourselves. But it happens because this cycle has happened so many times. It happens really, really fast. So we most of the time don't even notice the thoughts or the things that we're saying to ourselves. Instead, right after we have those thoughts, those beliefs we say, we come up with and get flooded, and that's usually the PTSD feelings. We get flooded with feelings that are associated with these thoughts. Now, this can also be a habit. So say you learned how to deal with your trauma like I did by eating, because that's what was happening in my family. So I'd get a reminder from the past. The trigger from my body would cause me to say things to myself. Those things would lead to these feelings. And because I didn't want to feel the feelings, nobody wants to feel those feelings, right? Nobody wants to experience re-traumatization from PTSD. This is why therapy actually re-traumatizes us, because the therapist says, I want you to talk about what happened. We talk about it and we have the thoughts happening in our head and all of the feelings come back. And then all the therapists do is teach us how to cope and ground ourselves, but they don't teach us how to heal it. And so, where was I? So let's say that the trigger is, you don't know what the trigger is, but you know that the behavior, the question was about self-sabotage. So you know that your behavior is overeating or drinking or yelling in relationship instead of listening or self-harm. I did a lot of picking of my skin before I figured this out. That started in childhood. So usually these behaviors are behaviors that have been around for a really long time. And all we know is that we constantly find ourselves there, and then we feel guilt and shame about it, but we don't know how to fix it. We haven't been told how to fix it. So what I've said in the group more than once is when you feel the temptation to do this behavior, so in other words, right here, you have to stop. Don't do the behavior, stop, and pay attention to these first three parts. And usually those first three parts, that's where the adjustment has to happen to actually make this something that you no longer do. So as it is, before healing happens, a reminder from your past, which is a trigger, which is stored in your body history, which is also something that I talk about in the in the trauma erase method, is you pay attention to what's in your body history. You listen for those messages you're saying to yourself. You look, and it's these feelings that are driving it. So we have to look at these three things and really create the shift there. Some people, some therapists, give affirmations or encourage affirmations, and most of the time, people who have trauma hate affirmations because affirmations don't help. Here's why. So let's say you've worked through the trigger, you've stopped yourself, you've noticed, you've journaled about your thoughts and feelings. You're not doing the self-sabotage behavior, but your therapist has taught you about coping skills and grounding behaviors. Well, there's still a problem. The reason that healing doesn't happen beyond that point is because just like a caregiver who denied they were doing anything wrong made us as children believe that there was something wrong with us, so we developed all of these things to compensate, the mental health system doesn't have the answers about how to heal trauma deeply. If you search Google, if you search in articles, it's not talking about how to heal. It's telling you how to cope and how to treat. That does two things. It keeps therapists being paid perpetually whenever anything new comes up in your life. And it keeps therapists from being honest about the reality that they don't know because they haven't had enough of their own deep trauma that they've healed themselves, what to do beyond coping and grounding. So just like a powerful caregiver, getting tongue-tied here, just like the powerful caregiver who denies any wrongdoing, so the child takes on the feelings that I'm wrong, there's something wrong with me. Therapy does the same thing. When you get coping skills and grounding, the implicit message from the therapist is, these should help you. These are in control behaviors. These should make you feel better. And if they don't, there's something wrong with you. So you start feeling guilt and shame, a sense of that you're not okay. Even a diagnosis of PTSD suggests, or chronic PTSD, which I had, suggests that there's something wrong with you. And just like the caregiver from our past who denies wrongdoing, the mental health system is too. Because the mental health system isn't saying, look, here's long-term, lasting solutions that you don't have to get from me. You can actually learn it and become independent in your healing process. The guys are coming here to mow the lawn, so let me close the window. So the idea is we want to notice when something happens in our body. We want to start getting more attuned to this process instead of running away from it. And then stop, understand it, figure out what to do with it, which is what I teach in the trauma erase method, so you can systematically eliminate the impact of trauma in your life. I'm living proof of it, and I'm telling you, I've taught it to people over and over and seen it work miracles. People, veterans, war veterans, have told me that I've given their life back, and they weren't able to get these solutions at the VA centers. So I mean, it's amazing what it can do. Your body has the capacity to heal, period. If you cut your skin, you don't have to tell your body what to do to heal it. You just have to keep it clean and free of infection. Well, the infection is the mental health system telling you that you can't heal. Because if your body can heal, if your skin can heal, then why wouldn't your mind and soul heal? It's true, you can. And you don't have to be dependent on therapists for the rest of your life to do it. If you're noticing a lot of passion from me, it's because I've been a therapist. I graduated in 1995, and I just have become more and more disillusioned with my field when I see that therapists are sincere and genuine. They want to help people, but they don't have the tools. I know that. My own experience showed that. And so I came up with what works through a process of trial and error and being consistently unwilling to give up on my healing process. So we got to figure out what this is. That's why we stop before we do the self-sabotaging behavior. And instead, we use a method that actually helps us erase triggers, heal trauma, and get to deeper and deeper levels of trauma as we move forward in our life, that we actually heal instead of having our life become more and more narrow as the trauma builds up and gets reinforced whenever we have interactions that actually make us feel triggered again. The last thing I'll say about this is that this is the same thing that happens in an addiction cycle. So this self-sabotaging behavior becomes stronger and stronger as a habit, just like responding to a trigger with fear is a habit that nobody's taught you how to undo. This self-sabotaging behavior, getting from trigger to self-sabotage, the more time you've been through this process, goes faster and faster and faster. And that's why it seems almost impossible to figure out what these thoughts are so that you can actually heal it at the root. So my trauma erase method has been fully developed, and I'm discovering what a demand there is for this kind of healing. And to be truthful with you, I am still developing it. It's in a course and will involve one-on-one group Zoom sessions with me to have more explanations of these things and to help you really understand how to use it to heal yourself. But the trauma erase method is not public yet. So at this point, I'm developing a wait list for people who are excited and want to have part of this. And so if you want to be on the wait list, let me know that, and I'll tell you how you can sign up so that you can be one of the first to hear. And so, yeah, that's what I wanted you to know. So when I say trigger, that's what a trigger is. When I say paying attention, hearing these and knowing what to do with this are the hardest part. Figuring out how to shift that so you can heal your brain isn't hard. It's part of the healing in the trauma erase method. But I've said enough about that. Anyway, I hope it helps. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. But this should be something that can help you move forward for a while until I get some other things together that I can help with. So anyway, hope it helps.